Stay away from my husband, you pathetic high school dropout.
The harsh words echoed through the elegant wedding reception hall, cutting through the gentle background music and polite conversation. Standing before me in her pristine white wedding dress, the bride, who happened to be my old classmate, unleashed her tirade with unveiled contempt.
Ugh, you're stinking up the place with your poverty, she continued, her perfectly manicured hand making shooing gestures as if I were some kind of pest. Just leave already! Shoo! Shoo!
Before I could respond, the groom rushed over, his face flushed with anger. How dare you say that? She's my... The groom's words would soon leave the bride pale-faced. But to understand how we got to this moment, we need to go back to the beginning of my story. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and the only thing that made me different from others was that I grew up in a single-parent household. My father divorced my mom before I could even remember his face. None of my early childhood memories include him. That's how young I was when he left. I have a younger brother and sister, both brilliant kids who never complained about our situation. Mom worked multiple jobs and was rarely home, so I took care of them instead. They understood it couldn't be helped, showing a maturity beyond their years. Sarah, my brother would say, helping me fold laundry after school. When I grow up, I'm going to be a doctor and take care of Mom. My sister would chime in, her small hands arranging dishes.
And I'll be a lawyer. Then Mom won't have to work so hard anymore.
Their determination always brought tears to my eyes, though I tried not to let them see. They were so young, yet they understood our situation perfectly. Mom must have known how the kids felt, because she always tried to come home early whenever possible. I would often catch her standing in the doorway late at night, watching us sleep with a mixture of love and guilt in her eyes. But when I entered high school, I finally understood the toll it was taking on her. Compared to my friends' mothers, she was rail thin. She often only ate once a day because of work, and when she did make it home, she would do housework while cutting into her precious sleep time. One evening, I found her dozing off while folding laundry, dark circles under her eyes more prominent than ever. "Mom," I whispered, gently taking the clothes from her hands. "Please rest a bit." She startled awake, immediately trying to grab the laundry back. "Oh no, I need to finish this. You have school tomorrow, and your siblings need clean uniforms." "But without you working, we won't have money," I murmured to myself, watching her stubborn determination. While I was worrying about what to do, I saw a job posting at school and got an idea. My heart leaped at the possibility. I could work. Thanks to Mom's sacrifices, I was able to attend high school. Having a high school diploma meant more job opportunities than just having a middle school education. This motivated me to start job hunting right after graduation. I was determined to earn money and make us happy, but some of my classmates started making fun of me when they saw me seriously job hunting. I hadn't tried to hide being from a single-parent household since I didn't think it was something to be ashamed of, but that seemed to make things worse.
"Look, it's the poor girl from the broken home,"
a mocking voice would call out as I walked down the hallway. When I turned around, there was Olivia, one of my classmates, surrounded by her usual group of admirers. Her designer uniform and perfectly styled hair marked her as someone from a wealthy family, someone who had never known what it meant to worry about money.
"Must be nice not having to study since you're from a poor family."
Olivia's voice dripped with false sweetness as she twirled a strand of her expensive highlights around her finger. When she said this, others around her started giggling too. Looking back now, I wish I had stood up for myself then, but I was too scared to talk back when faced with so many people's malice. Olivia suddenly threw cleaning supplies at me. The broom hit my leg since I couldn't dodge it in time. "Ouch!" I winced, rubbing my shin where the handle had struck.
"Clean this up for us,"
Olivia commanded, her eyes gleaming with cruel amusement.
"Unlike you, we actually have to study."
She threw buckets and rags at me too, forcing me to clean while her friends watched and laughed. This continued for quite a while, becoming an almost daily ritual of humiliation. Part 2. A mother's sacrifice. One day, I came home to find Mom there unusually early. She was sitting at our small kitchen table, still in her convenience store uniform, her hands wrapped around a cup of lukewarm tea. As soon as she saw my face, her tired eyes filled with concern. "Sarah, is everything okay? You can tell me what's wrong." Her kind words almost made me cry. The gentleness in her voice threatened to break the dam I've built around my emotions. But seeing her exhausted from work, her uniform wrinkled from a long day of standing, I couldn't bring myself to cry. "No, I'm fine," I forced a smile. "Job hunting is just a little tough." Mom reached across the table and took my hand in hers. Her palm was rough from years of manual labor, but her touch was infinitely gentle. "Sarah, if you want to go to college, don't worry about money. I have something worked out." "No, I want to work," I interrupted, squeezing her hand back. "I'm not really interested in college." Mom didn't push or ask for my reasons. She just told me to do what I wanted, but I could see the worry lines deepen around her eyes. "You don't have to lie about having something worked out," I thought to myself, watching her slowly sip her tea. "If you did, you wouldn't be working so many jobs." A few days later, my worst fears came true. We were in the kitchen together. Mom had managed to get home early again and was trying to cook dinner while I helped my siblings with their homework at the table. One moment, she was stirring a pot of soup, and the next, she was crumpling to the floor like a marionette whose strings had been cut. "Mom!" I screamed, rushing to her side. My siblings' textbooks clattered to the floor as they jumped in panic. "Mommy!" my sister cried, clutching Mom's limp hand. "Call an ambulance!" I ordered my brother, who was already reaching for the phone with shaking hands. The diagnosis was malnutrition and exhaustion. Apparently, Mom had been pushing herself so hard at work that her body had been screaming in pain, but she'd ignored it to keep working. The doctor's words felt like physical blows as he listed all the ways she had been destroying her health. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Sarah." Mom kept apologizing from her hospital bed, her voice weak and her face pale against the white pillows. "No, Mom, this isn't your fault. This was my decision," I insisted, holding back tears as I arranged her blankets. "But dropping out," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. Yes, I had decided to drop out of high school to work in Mom's place. While Mom was in the hospital, she couldn't earn money, but if she collapsed again, that's why I decided to start working without waiting for graduation. "Don't worry," I tried to sound confident, plastering on a brave smile. "I'll find something quickly." Though I tried to sound confident in front of Mom, at home I was filled with anxiety. My siblings watched me with worried eyes as I paced our small living room, frantically circling job listings in the newspaper. "What am I going to do?" I muttered to myself. "Who's going to hire someone who didn't even finish high school?" I was actually desperate. Without a high school diploma, my job options were severely limited, and I needed to earn enough to support a family of 4. The weight of responsibility felt crushing. "I need to find jobs that will let me work multiple shifts," I declared, trying to strategize. Maybe I could work at a convenience store in the morning, a restaurant in the afternoon, and the cleaning offices at night. That's when it happened. I got a call from school asking me to come in to meet with my counselor. My heart sank. Were they going to try to convince me to come back? I couldn't afford to waste time on that. The next day when I went to school, I was led not to the counselor's office or a classroom, but to the conference room. The polished wooden door looked more intimidating than ever. "Excuse me?" I called softly as I entered. There sat a distinguished-looking man in an impeccable suit. His presence commanded attention, but there was something gentle about his eyes that put me slightly at ease. I sat down in the offered chair, completely confused about what was happening. My uniform skirt felt suddenly shabby compared to his tailored suit. "Sarah, this is the CEO of Williams Corp," my counselor explained, gesturing to the man. My eyes widened in shock. Williams Corp wasn't just any company. It was one of the largest corporations in the country. Even I, who had been focused solely on finding immediate work, knew their name. "Oh, nice to meet you," I stammered, trying to remember proper business etiquette from the library books I'd been studying. "Nice to meet you too. You seem like an energetic young lady," he said warmly. I'm the CEO of Williams Corp. Please, take my card.
Part 3. A New Beginning. The CEO handed me his business card with both hands, a gesture of respect I hadn't expected. My fingers trembled slightly as I accepted it, trying to mirror his professional manner.
You see, I've heard about your situation,
he said, his voice carrying a note of compassion that made me want to trust him immediately. Oh, thank you, I responded uncertainly, not sure what else to say. Why would such an important person care about my circumstances?
I'd like to offer you a position in my company.
What? Huh? I blurted out, forgetting all my attempts at professionalism. I mean, excuse me? The man in front of me smiled kindly at my wide-eyed shock.
What do you think?
Yes, please, I would be honored. I practically jumped out of my chair, then immediately felt embarrassed by my enthusiasm. Mr. Williams chuckled warmly.
Your energy will be a valuable asset to our company. However,
his expression grew more serious.
I want you to understand something. This won't be easy. People might question why you're there. They might be unkind. Are you prepared for that?
I straightened my spine and met his eyes directly. Sir, I've been cleaning my classmates' classroom while they mock me for being poor. I've been taking care of my siblings since I was a child. I've watched my mother work herself into the hospital. I'm not afraid of hard work or unkindness. Something flickered in his eyes. Pride? Approval? Before I could identify it, it was gone. And that's how I started working at Williams Corp, entering a world I never thought I'd be a part of. The first day I walked into the gleaming office building, my new shoes squeaking slightly on the polished floor, I felt like an imposter in my carefully pressed discount store suit. Remember, I whispered to myself as I approached the reception desk, you're here because Mr. Williams saw something in you. Don't let him down. The receptionist looked up, her perfectly made-up face showing a flicker of surprise.
Oh, you must be the new hire, Sarah Mitchell?
Yes, that's me, I replied, trying to project confidence I didn't feel.
Human Resources is expecting you. 3rd floor. Turn right at the elevator.
As I walked through the office, I could feel curious eyes following me. The whispers started almost immediately.
That's the new hire?
She looks so young. I heard she doesn't even have a high school diploma.
Must be someone's mistress.
I kept my head high and my steps steady, remembering Mr. Williams' warning. This was just the beginning of what I would face. The first month was brutal. Learning everything was a struggle since I was so unfamiliar with office work. The computer programs everyone else seemed to know instinctively were foreign to me. I stayed late every night, practicing with the software until my eyes burned. My direct supervisor, Ms. Thompson, seemed to take particular pleasure in pointing out my mistakes.
Sarah,
she would say, her voice dripping with false sweetness.
Could you explain why these reports are formatted incorrectly? Again?
I'm sorry, Miss Thompson. I'll fix them right away.
Just make sure it doesn't happen again.
She would sigh dramatically.
Though I suppose we can't expect too much from someone without proper education.
The whispered rumors that I must be the CEO's mistress grew louder with each passing week. I could see people watching me, wondering how someone like me had gotten in this position. But I couldn't let it get to me. If I couldn't make it here, I'd have to work multiple part-time jobs. Then I wouldn't be able to support our family of 4. With Mom's health not fully recovered, becoming a part-timer wasn't an option if we wanted to maintain our standard of living. I endured everything desperately.
Sarah, could you take care of this?
A stack of papers would land on my desk. Yes, right away.
Sarah, this needs handling too.
Another pile would appear before I'd finish the first. Yes, I'll get right on it.
Sarah, could you make 30 copies of this and organize them by 3 p.m.? Just leave them in the conference room when you're done.
Got it. My seniors and coworkers kept piling work and menial tasks on me, not caring how much I struggled. But each night, as I rode the last train home, I would think of Mom, slowly regaining her strength, and my siblings able to focus on their studies without worry. It made every difficult moment worth it. I fought constant battles against the rumors and anxiety about our finances,
working frantically every day. I volunteered for jobs that others didn't want to do, determined to make myself indispensable.
You don't have to stay so late, the security guard would say kindly as I left the building long after everyone else.
Just a bit more practice, I would reply with a smile. I need to get better at these programs. This opportunity was my only chance. If I lost it, there would be no backup plan. I went to work every day like my life depended on it. Part 4. Rising through the ranks. Several years passed, and gradually things began to change. The whispers didn't stop entirely, but they took on a different tone.
Have you seen Sarah's quarterly reports? They're always perfect.
She's always the first one here and the last one to leave.
When I had trouble with the new accounting system, she stayed late to help me figure it out.
One morning, as I was organizing files in the conference room, I heard a familiar voice. These files go here, those go there. Done. Finished early today. I let out a satisfied sigh, surveying my handiwork. After several years of practice, I could organize documents in my sleep.
Oh, Sarah, is that you?
Mr. Williams! Good evening, sir. I straightened up quickly, surprised to see the CEO himself. He stood in the doorway, his presence as commanding as ever, but his eyes held that same warmth I remembered from our first meeting.
Good work today. I hear you've been doing really well lately. The other employees have been praising your work.
Really? Thank you so much. My cheeks flushed with pleasure at the unexpected praise.
Yes, I'm glad I hired you.
He paused, seeming to consider something.
In fact, I've been watching your progress with great interest.
A few more years passed, and I found myself promoted to department manager. Through continued effort, I'd earned the trust of those around me. The same people who had once whispered about me being the CEO's mistress now came to me for guidance and support. That's when I got called to the CEO's office. As I rode the elevator to the top floor, my mind raced through possible scenarios. Had I made a mistake? Was there a problem with my department? Excuse me, sir. I called softly as I entered his office.
Sarah, come in. I have something to discuss with you. Please have a seat.
I sat in the same kind of chair I'd sat in years ago at my high school. The view from his office window showed the entire city spread out below us, glittering in the afternoon sun. What did you want to discuss? Mr. Williams folded his hands on his desk, looking more serious than usual.
Actually, I'd like to put you in charge of one of our companies.
What? Huh? I couldn't help but exclaim in shock, echoing my reaction from years ago. Someone like me?
Precisely because it's you.
Mr. Williams's eyes held mine steadily.
This company is meant to help women in situations like yours. Single mothers. It's a company for women.
As he explained it, it was a company that actively hired single mothers and wanted to empower women. The concept immediately resonated with me, reminding me of my own mother's struggles.
Because you've experienced these hardships firsthand, I want you to be the CEO.
My voice caught in my throat. Could someone like me really do this? But then I thought of all the women out there like my mother, struggling alone, needing just one chance to prove themselves. Mr. Williams waited patiently for my response, his expression kind but serious. I'll do it, I said finally, my voice growing stronger. Please, let me do it. And so, I was put in charge of my own company. Just as Mr. Williams had said, it was designed to be women-friendly, but I found several areas for improvement and began implementing reforms. We actively hired single mothers as full-time employees and established daycare and after-school facilities within the company. I remembered my own childhood, trying to help my siblings with homework while mom worked late, and made sure we had qualified childcare professionals available every day. But won't this be expensive? One of the board members had questioned during my proposal presentation. What's more expensive? I had countered. Providing childcare or constantly training new employees because mothers can't maintain their careers? We're not just being charitable, we're investing in retention and productivity. We enhanced maternity and childcare leave benefits, creating an environment where women could continue their careers, even with children, with full benefits and competitive salaries. My ideal company was taking shape day by day. After After I became CEO, company motivation skyrocketed. Walking through the office, I would often overhear conversations that made my heart swell with pride.
The CEO here really understands what women go through,
one employee would say to another in the break room.
I know, right? When my son was sick last week, she personally told me to take as much time as I needed. It's such a great place to work.
This increased employee motivation seemed to create a sense of unity in the company, and our performance soared. The CEO of the parent company, Mr. Williams, had nothing but praise for our success. Part 5. The Harvard Graduate. That's when a male employee was transferred to us from headquarters. The morning of his arrival, there was an unusual buzz of excitement in the office. Hello, I'm Mark Anderson. He introduced himself as the morning meeting, his voice clear and confident. I'll be working here starting today. Looking forward to working with everyone. His greeting was impeccably polite, and he carried himself with a quiet dignity that immediately commanded respect. In our workplace dominated by women, the arrival of an eligible bachelor naturally sparked conversation. During lunch break, the whispers started immediately.
Hey, did you hear? He graduated from Harvard.
One of my employees excitedly shared over her bento box.
No way,
her colleague gasped, nearly dropping her chopsticks. Amazing. I've never met anyone from Harvard before.
And he's single.
What? Really? I smiled to myself, remembering how I used to be intimidated by such credentials. Now I knew better than to judge someone based on their education alone. With Mark's gentle demeanor and strong communication skills, I figured he'd quickly become popular in the company. He handled his work efficiently and treated everyone with respect, regardless of their position or background. That's what I thought, at least. However, after a few days, I noticed something wasn't quite right. When Mark thought no one was watching, his shoulders would slump and his face would fall into an expression of deep exhaustion. While he always smiled when talking to others, he looked dejected when by himself. One afternoon, I saw him standing alone in the break room, staring into his coffee cup as if it held all the answers to his problems. I wonder what's wrong, I thought to myself. Is he okay? But men probably have their own concerns. Though I was worried, I watched as Mark's expression grew more pained day by day. Finally, after seeing him almost make a critical error in an important presentation because of his distraction, I decided to talk to him. Mark, do you have a moment? I called out as he was packing up his things at the end of the day. Oh, yes, of course, he replied, his professional mask sliding back into place. I led him into my office, closing the door to ensure privacy. I'm sorry, did I make a mistake somewhere? He asked immediately, tension visible in his shoulders. Oh, no, that's not it at all, I hurried to reassure him. I've just noticed you haven't seemed yourself lately. Are you okay? Oh, Mark hesitated, his fingers fidgeting with his tie. I'm sorry if it's personal, you don't have to talk about it, I added softly. As both your CEO and as a person, I just can't help but worry when I see someone looking troubled. Is the workload too much? Or is there a particularly challenging project? I tried to speak as gently as possible, carefully choosing my words to avoid hurting his pride. Mark seemed to understand my intentions and slowly began to open up. Actually, he started, then paused to take a deep breath. I've been feeling a lot of pressure. Pressure? When things don't go perfectly at work, people make comments like, aren't you supposed to be smart? Or, is that Harvard degree fake? His voice grew bitter. When I hear things like that, it really gets to me, the stress. I see. I nodded, understanding all too well how it felt to be judged based on education. It's been like this my whole life, he continued, his words now flowing as if a dam had broken. What do you mean? Well, my father, Mark swallowed hard. He's the CEO of the parent company. We've always been well off. Oh. Everything suddenly clicked into place. Because of that, people have always tried to get close to me for money. Since I was young, there were always so many people who only saw me for my family's wealth. His voice cracked slightly. I thought once I started working, people would judge me on my own merits, but it feels like no one really sees me for who I am. Sometimes I wonder who I really am.
Mark turned away from me, his voice thick with emotion. Though he wasn't crying, I could tell he was close. I felt myself getting emotional too. Part 6. Unexpected Connections. Looking at Mark's hunched shoulders, I realized something important. Those who seem to have it all often carry their own heavy burdens. Don't let it get to you, I said softly. Let them say what they want. You are who you are.
Yes,
He whispered, still not turning around. You know, I went through something similar when I first started here.
really?
He finally looked back at me, surprise evident in his reddened eyes. When I first joined the company, I was just a high school dropout. Every day I heard whispers about how useless I was. I leaned back in my chair, memories flooding back. Who hires a high school dropout these days, they'd say. Some even spread rumors that I was the CEO's mistress.
And what did my father do about it?
Mark asked, his voice barely audible. I couldn't help but laugh. I worked my butt off. I worked and worked, because back then I absolutely loved money. Mark chuckled despite himself. Just kidding. I waved my hands dramatically. But seriously, I just kept working. I showed them what I could do instead of telling them. Actions speak louder than words, right? While I couldn't be sure if my words were truly helping Mark, I tried to relate to his feelings as much as I could, while keeping the conversation lighthearted. As we talked, his expression gradually brightened.
Somehow, talking with you makes me feel better,
he admitted, finally relaxing in his chair. Well, I am a high school dropout after all. I learned everything the hard way. I grinned and he laughed again, more genuinely this time. The day after our conversation, Mark was like a different person. He smiled genuinely now, and when he made mistakes at work, he quickly found solutions instead of beating himself up about them. His communication with others gradually improved as well. One morning, I heard him humming as he organized files in the copy room. Mark's doing so much better, I thought to myself, watching him cheerfully help a colleague with a jammed printer. I'm glad. His work and performance improved steadily, and he started taking on more challenging projects with confidence. He even organized a company-wide workshop on effective communication, drawing from both his Harvard education and his personal experiences. After just 6 months with our company, his hard work was recognized, and he was promoted back to headquarters. I was as happy as if it were my own achievement. The day before he was set to transfer, Mark burst into my office, practically bouncing with excitement.
CEO Mitchell.
Oh, Mark, good work today. I looked up from my computer, smiling at his enthusiasm.
CEO, I really can't thank you enough.
He bowed deeply.
Starting tomorrow, I'll be at headquarters. I couldn't have made it this far without you.
Oh, stop it. What are you saying? I stood up, walking around my desk. You did this yourself. Don't be so modest. Be proud of your hard work when you go to headquarters.
Yes.
He straightened up, then fidgeted with something in his pocket.
Also, actually.
Mark handed me an envelope, his face flushed with happiness. I could tell what it was just by looking at it. The elegant cream-colored paper and gold embossing could only mean one thing.
I'm getting married.
He beamed.
I'd love for you to come to the wedding, CEO Mitchell.
Of course! I clapped my hands together. I'm looking forward to the food.
We'll prepare something amazing,
he promised, laughing. As I watched him practically skip out of my office, I felt a warmth in my chest. The nervous, troubled young man who had first joined our company had grown into someone who could laugh freely and face challenges head-on. Little did I know that his wedding day would bring an unexpected twist that would change both our lives forever. Part 7. The Wedding Day. The wedding day arrived bright and clear. I put on my best dress, a navy blue number I'd splurged on to celebrate my first year as CEO, and headed to the venue, feeling excited to see Mark's happy moment. Mark's getting married, I hummed to myself as I drove. I can't wait to see what kind of person he's marrying. I arrived at the venue feeling giddy with anticipation. Being the CEO's son, Mark's wedding was held at one of the city's most prestigious hotels. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the elegant decorations, and flower arrangements
that probably cost more than my monthly salary adorned every surface. The guest list was diverse, with people of all ages attending. I recognized several executives from headquarters, all in impeccably tailored suits and designer dresses. CEO Mitchell. Mark's voice cut through the gentle murmur of conversation. He hurried over, looking handsome in his wedding tuxedo. Thank you so much for coming. Mark, thank you for inviting me. I gestured at the ornate surroundings. What a beautiful venue. My parents are thrilled too. He rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. We might have gone a bit overboard with everything. The food is amazing too, so please enjoy yourself. Yes, thank you. Just then, someone called Mark's name from across the room. He looked over his shoulder apologetically. Oh, excuse me for a moment. Don't worry about me. I shoot him away with a smile. The star of the show is busy. Go ahead. Yes, I'll catch up with you later, CEO. As I watched him weave through the crowd, greeting guests with that genuine smile I'd grown familiar with, I couldn't help but feel a bit wistful. Marriage, huh? I thought to myself. Maybe I should start thinking about finding someone too. While I was casually thinking about this and looking for my seat, a shrill voice pierced the air like a knife. What the hell? Why are you here? That voice. That tone. My blood ran cold as memories from high school came flooding back. When I turned around, there stood Olivia, my old classmate. But this wasn't the Olivia from our school days. This Olivia was wearing a pristine white wedding dress, her face perfectly made up, looking every inch the beautiful bride. Mark's bride was Olivia, the same Olivia who had tormented me about being poor. My hands tensed involuntarily, memories of cleaning supplies being thrown at me flashing through my mind. No, it's the poor girl. Olivia's voice dripped with the same venom I remembered from high school. What? Did you come to gawk at what you can't have? I don't remember sending you an invitation. I forced my voice to remain steady and professional. I'm here because of Mark's work connection. What? You work at the same company as Mark? Her perfectly plucked eyebrows shot up in disbelief. Ugh, that's just awful. Olivia looked me up and down with undisguised disgust, her eyes lingering on my dress as if assessing its price tag. You still have the same pathetic look about you. God, you're ruining my perfect day. Having someone like you at my wedding. Just as I was starting to feel extremely uncomfortable, Mark returned. His face lit up when he saw us together. Huh? Do you two know each other? He looked between us, surprised. Olivia's demeanor changed instantly. She started slapping my back while letting out a high-pitched laugh that made my skin crawl. Oh, we're just old high school classmates, she chirped. Then her voice turned nasty again. But this one's hilarious. She's a dropout. She quit high school halfway through. A dropout loser. She was from this super poor single-parent family. It's so ridiculous, it's funny. Like, who even does that nowadays? Olivia wrapped her arm around Mark's, pressing against him possessively. Hey, why did you invite someone like this to our wedding? Mark, you're a Harvard graduate. This isn't the kind of wedding for some dropout trash to attend. It's totally inappropriate. She made shooing gestures at me like I was a fly. Come on, Mark. Throw her out. Shoo, shoo, and don't ever come near my husband again. Part 8. The truth comes out. Seeing Olivia's behavior, Mark's face turned bright red with anger. I'd never seen him look so furious before. What the hell is wrong with you? He shouted, his voice echoing through the reception hall. The surrounding conversations died instantly. Huh? Mark? Olivia stepped back, startled by his outburst. A dropout? She's the CEO of my division. She's the person who helped me when I was struggling. How dare you speak to her like that? What? Olivia's eyes widened in shock, her perfectly applied mascara making them look almost comical. CEO? You're lying. With steady hands, I took a business card from my purse and handed it to her. Olivia snatched it from my hand, her long nails nearly scratching my palm. This company? Mark's? Her voice trailed off as she read my title. How can you be so incredibly rude? Mark demanded, pulling away from her grasp. But it's weird, right? Olivia's voice took on a wheedling tone.
A Harvard graduate like you working under a dropout. That's not normal.
Oh, so you're just judging me by my degree? Mark's voice turned ice cold. Is that why you wanted to marry me too? Were you evaluating me based on my education?
Wait, that's not true.
Then why did you decide to marry me? What exactly did you like about me? Olivia looked up at Mark with what she probably thought was a cute expression, twirling her finger in her expensive updo.
Well, with a Harvard degree, our future would be secure. And you being the CEO's son.
She brightened as if she just remembered something wonderful.
Of course, you're handsome and hardworking too. But the Harvard thing and being the CEO's son, those are part of your charm, you know?
I watched Mark's face as Olivia spoke, seeing the same pain I'd witnessed in my office that day slowly transform into a resolute determination. His hands were trembling as Olivia forcefully tried to hold them.
I mean, I fell in love with everything about you. I told you before that I really love you.
I can't do this. Mark's voice was quiet but firm.
What?
Olivia's smile froze. I'm sorry, but I can't marry you, Olivia. This is absolutely impossible.
What? Oh, what?
Olivia's voice rose to a shriek that made several guests wince. The elegant wedding reception had turned into something resembling a theatrical drama. Guests were trying to pretend that they weren't watching while obviously hanging on every word. Mark bowed deeply to everyone present, his voice carrying clearly through the now silent hall. Everyone, I sincerely apologize for gathering you here today. I would like to change this from a wedding ceremony to just a dinner reception.
What? Mark! What are you saying? Mark?
Olivia's carefully crafted composure was crumbling by the second. The food will be served to your tables. Please enjoy the meal. We will return your wedding gifts on your way out. Please don't forget to collect them. Mark's voice remained steady and professional, as if he were conducting a business meeting rather than canceling his own wedding.
No! Why? Wait, Mark!
Olivia clutched at his sleeve, her white-knuckled grip wrinkling the expensive fabric. When Mark raised his head, he faced Olivia with an expression I'd never seen before. A mixture of disappointment, anger, and something that looked almost like pity. Let's talk in the back room with our parents. I cannot spend my life with you. This is impossible.
No! Wait, why?
As Olivia clung to him desperately, Mark started to pull her toward the back room. Before leaving, he turned to me and bowed deeply. I'm so sorry about the horrible things she said. I'll properly apologize later. No, don't worry about it, I assured him, my heart aching for the pain I could see in his eyes. Take care of your situation first. Don't worry about me. Yes, I'm sorry. I had never seen such a dark expression on Mark's face before. As they disappeared into the back room, Olivia's protest growing fainter, I returned to my seat with a heavy sigh. The expensive gourmet food was being served, but even the finest dishes couldn't tempt my appetite. Part 9. Unexpected Changes. A few days later, Mark came to my office to formally apologize and tell me what had happened afterward. His usual cheerful demeanor was subdued, his shoulders carrying the weight of recent events. The engagement is officially canceled, he began, sitting heavily in the chair across from my desk. But there's more to the story than I expected. Mark explained that during the family meeting after the reception, some troubling truths had come to light. Olivia's parents had been constantly pressuring her to choose men based on their educational background and social status. They had practically orchestrated her relationship with Mark from the beginning. They had a whole list, Mark said, running a hand through his hair. Harvard graduates, CEO sons, doctors from prestigious universities. They'd been pushing her to target men like that since high school. That's terrible, I murmured, thinking back to the Olivia I'd known in school. Had her cruelty been a reflection of the pressure she was under? Yeah, I felt a bit sorry for her, to be honest. When her parents realized the wedding wasn't happening, they disowned her. Mark's voice cracked slightly. They'd said she'd lost such a well-educated match, and they couldn't face their social circle anymore. They disowned their own daughter over this? I couldn't hide my shock. She keeps coming to my house, Mark continued, but I can't even look at her anymore. Not after how she treated you. and knowing she only wanted me for my credentials? He trailed off, looking out my office window. After Mark returned to headquarters, I pulled out a copy of a resume from my desk drawer. The name at the top read Olivia Parker. She had applied for a position at my company just days after the failed wedding. My first instinct was suspicion. Was she trying to cause trouble? Get revenge? But after hearing Mark's story and reading her statement of purpose, I found myself intrigued. The Olivia who had written this application wasn't the sneering girl from high school or even the entitled bride from the wedding. The personal statement was raw, honest, and showed a level of self-awareness I wouldn't have thought possible from her. Maybe I should hear what she has to say? I mused, tapping my pen against the desk. I decided to interview her myself. When the day arrived, I was honestly nervous. How would she act? Would she try to cause a scene? But when Olivia entered the interview room, I barely recognized her. Gone was the designer clothing and perfectly styled hair. Instead, she wore a simple, professional suit, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. The biggest change, though, was in her expression. The arrogance had been replaced by something that looked almost like humility. Miss Parker, shall we begin the interview? I kept my voice neutral and professional.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity.
Her voice was steady, showing none of her previous affected sweetness. The interview proceeded with unexpected professionalism. Olivia's answers were thoughtful and showed genuine understanding of the position she was applying for. She had clearly done her research about our company and its mission. This concludes the... I started to wrap up, but curiosity got the better of me. Let me ask you something. Not as a CEO, but as your old classmate. I saw her tense up, her hands clasping tightly in her lap. Why this company?
I want to prove myself.
Her answer came quickly, but not rehearsed. Prove yourself?
I'm done relying on men.
Her voice grew stronger.
This company promotes women based on their abilities, right? I want to walk my own path. Not because my parents told me to, but because I want to stand on my own 2 feet.
I could see her fist clenching in her lap, knuckles white with determination.
I've looked down on so many people, including you,
she continued, her voice thick with emotion.
But after my parents kicked me out, I finally understood. I was the one who was worthless. I had no idea how to survive on my own.
Part 10. Second Chances.
Being alone made me finally understand what hardship means,
Olivia continued, her voice barely above a whisper.
But I'm not going to live the rest of my life cowering. I'm going to work hard and prove I can be better than anyone else.
Looking at her serious expression, one I'd never seen before, I made my decision. Something in her reminded me of myself from years ago, that desperate determination to prove oneself. 1 week from today, I said firmly, I'll email you the details of what you'll need.
Huh?
Olivia looked confused, as if she couldn't quite process my words. I'm saying you're hired. Congratulations. Her eyes widened in shock, then filled with tears.
But after everything I did to you?
Listen, I leaned forward, meeting her gaze directly. I'm not hiring you because I forgive you or because I feel sorry for you. I'm hiring you because I see potential. What you do with this opportunity is up to you. My instincts about Olivia proved right, though in ways I never expected. From her first day, she threw herself into work with an intensity that surprised everyone. The perfectly manicured hands that had once thrown cleaning supplies at me now carried stacks of reports and typed furiously at her computer late into the night. She treated our single mothers and employees without degrees with respect, learning from them as she worked. When one of our single mother employees had to leave suddenly because her child was sick, Olivia was the first to volunteer to cover her workload.
Don't worry about the presentation,
she assured her colleague.
Just take care of your little one. I'll handle everything here.
With her natural communication skills and intelligence, she managed to achieve results that surpassed even our parent company's performance within a year. She worked so hard, it almost made me jealous. One evening, I found her still at her desk long after everyone else had left. Olivia, it's past 9, I called out softly. She looked up, startled.
Oh, CEO Mitchell, I just wanted to finish analyzing these market trends. I think I found a way we could expand our childcare services to smaller satellite offices.
I couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. This caught Mr. Williams's attention as well. Ring, ring, ring. Hello, Sarah Mitchell speaking.
Sarah, are you free today or tomorrow?
Mr. Williams, good evening. Yes, I'm free. Is this about a business meeting? His words made me sit up straight, but his response surprised me.
No. Would you like to get a drink with me? The company you're leading has grown so much. Let me celebrate your success a bit.
Yes, of course. I'd be honored. That evening, I went drinking with Mr. Williams. Though I'd known him for years, this was actually the first time we'd had drinks together, just the two of us. The izakaya he chose was comfortable but elegant, with private booths that allowed for quiet conversation. I felt nervous as I sat down, smoothing my skirt repeatedly. Mr. Williams ordered sake for the both of us, and after a few drinks, when I was feeling a bit more relaxed, I finally asked something I've always wondered about. You know, Mr. Williams? He looked up from pouring me another drink. Why did you hire me back then? You came all the way to my school, remember? Looking back now, it seems strange. He set down the sake bottle, a peculiar expression crossing his face.
The truth is,
he began, then paused, taking a long breath. Yes?
I'm your father.
Part 11. Truth and Reconciliation. Yes. Wait. What? The alcohol-induced haziness cleared instantly from my mind. What? Father? My voice came out as a squeak. Mr. Williams, no, my father, set down his glass and slowly began to explain everything. His story took me back decades to when he was just starting his company.
When I first started the company, things weren't going well.
He said, his eyes distant with memory.
I had almost no income right after founding it, but I worked like my life depended on it.
Because of that, he couldn't come home much. As he spoke, fragments of my childhood began to make more sense. The vague memories of a man's voice, the way Mom would sometimes look at the phone as if waiting for it to ring. I didn't know this, but apparently my mother had met with him several times outside our home. However, he could only spare a few minutes between work commitments and couldn't come home. The guilt in his voice as he spoke of these meetings was palpable.
By the time the business finally started succeeding, you were already in high school.
He continued, his hands gripping his glass tightly.
I offered to help with your tuition, but you were determined to work. Your mother came to me and said if I wanted to help, I should hire you.
Oh, I remember Mom's words from so long ago. Mom did mention she had something worked out. The truth continued to unfold. After the company started doing well, my father had been providing financial support to my mother. Though she insisted she was fine, with my younger siblings to think about, he sent money monthly, both for their college funds and as a way to make up for everything my mother had gone through.
What I did can never be forgiven, he said, bowing his head, running away, leaving everything to your mother. When I heard she collapsed, the regret I felt.
Then, perhaps the company I'm running now? I began, thinking of the women-focused initiatives we'd implemented.
It came naturally,
he admitted softly.
Creating a company to help single mothers. Maybe it was my way of atoning for what I did to your mother and you kids.
That day, I had a long talk with my father over drinks. Though the revelation was shocking, I learned a lot about what happened back then. The pieces of my childhood that had never quite made sense began to fall into place.
I am truly sorry.
The man I had respected as my CEO, now revealed to be my father, bowed his head to me again. But I quickly made him raise it. Please don't. Maybe if I were still a child, I would have been angry at him. I might have demanded to know why he abandoned us, or asked him to choose between work and family. But life had taught me that things weren't always so simple. You helped our family when we needed it most, I said softly. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You've been watching over us all this time, haven't you? He nodded, unable to speak. Then maybe we can start from here? Better late than never, right? After talking with my mother, we planned our first family vacation together. It was awkward at first. None of us quite knew how to act around each other. But as the days passed, something beautiful began to happen. My siblings, now successful in their own rights thanks to the education funds our father had provided, began to open up to him. Mom, who had carried so much weight on her shoulders for so long, finally seemed to relax. Throughout all of this, I learned something important. You can't judge people by their titles or labels. A high school dropout can become a CEO. A spoiled rich girl can learn humility and become a valuable team member. And a father who seemed to abandon his family might have been supporting them all along. Rather than making assumptions based on appearances or titles, it's better to look people in the eye and really get to know who they are. Everyone has their own story, their own struggles, and their own path to redemption. As I sat in my office one evening, watching the sunset paint the city in golden hues, I thought about how far we'd all come. Olivia was thriving in her role, helping other women succeed. Mark had found someone who loved him for who he was, not his credentials. My family was slowly healing, building new memories together. And me? I was exactly where I needed to be, doing what I loved most, helping others find their way, just as Mr. Williams, my father, had once helped me find mine. Sometimes, the longest paths lead us exactly where we need to be, even if we don't recognize it at first. And sometimes, the labels we put on people, dropout, Harvard graduate, single mother, absent father, are just the beginning of much more complex and beautiful stories.